He stepped out of his luxury car, expecting a small, quiet house, but what he saw froze his heart. The maid he barely noticed was feeding two starving elderly people with her own hands. The air was dry, the land cracked, and the fragile mud house looked like it could collapse any second. Yet inside that broken place, there was something he never had in his mansion. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments what time is it and where are you watching from. Let's start. The old man's trembling hands struggled to hold the bowl, and the maid gently supported him, her eyes filled with care that felt deeper than any expensive charity he had ever done. His breath got heavy as he noticed the old woman sitting beside him, quietly waiting, not complaining, just watching the food like it was the most precious thing in the world. He remembered how he had shouted at the maid that morning in his office, accusing her of being careless, while she silently accepted the blame and left without a word. A sudden guilt hit him hard when he realized she had left his office early, not out of laziness, but to reach here before sunset, to feed these people who had no one else. The wind blew dust across his polished shoes, and for the first time he felt ashamed of how clean and untouched his life had always been compared to this raw, painful reality. He took a step closer, trying not to make noise, but the maid noticed him. Her eyes widened slightly, not in fear, but in a quiet shock that he had followed her here. In that moment, he understood something was very wrong, because the way she looked at him wasn't like an employee seeing her boss. It felt like she was hiding a truth he was never supposed to discover. The maid slowly stood up, her hands still trembling, as if his presence had just turned a hidden world into something exposed and fragile beyond repair. He tried to speak, but no words came out, because the old man looked up at him, and in that one glance, there was a strange familiarity that disturbed his calm mind. The dry wind howled through the broken walls, and the old woman quietly pulled her shawl tighter, her weak eyes fixed on him like she recognized something he couldn't yet understand. He forced himself to ask, "Who are they?" But his voice sounded different, softer, uncertain, like a man stepping into a truth he wasn't ready to face. The maid hesitated, her silence heavier than any answer, and then she gently said, "They are people who were left behind when someone chose success over responsibility." Her words hit him like a sudden blow, and for a moment he felt the ground beneath him shift, as if the past he buried was slowly coming back to life. A distant memory flickered in his mind, a poor village, a promise he once made long ago, and faces he walked away from when he chose wealth over everything else. He shook his head slightly, trying to deny it, but the old man's eyes remained locked on him, filled with something deeper than anger, something that looked like silent disappointment. The maid stepped forward, her voice now firmer. "Sir, some debts are not paid with money, and some mistakes don't disappear just because you became powerful." At that exact moment, a car horn echoed from the road behind, breaking the silence, but inside him, something had already started breaking that no sound could cover. He stepped back slightly, his chest tightening, as the maid's words echoed louder than the wind, digging into a past he had buried under years of success and silence. The old man slowly tried to stand, his fragile legs shaking, and for a moment it felt like he was forcing himself up, not for strength, but to face something unfinished. Their eyes met again, and this time the connection was undeniable, like two timelines colliding, one filled with wealth and power, the other with abandonment and quiet suffering. He quickly looked away, pretending confusion, but deep inside, a memory clawed its way back. A day he left a small village without turning around, even once. The maid noticed his reaction and took a slow breath, her voice softer now. Some journeys don't end when you walk away. They wait for you to return and answer. The old woman gently placed her hand on the old man's arm, her silence speaking louder than words, as if she already knew what truth was about to unfold here. A sudden gust of wind slammed the loose wooden door behind them, making him flinch, and in that second his confidence cracked like the dry ground beneath his feet. He turned back again, this time unable to escape, and whispered, "Why do I feel like I've seen you before?" His voice shaking with something close to fear. The old man's lips trembled, trying to form words, but no sound came out, only tears slowly rolling down his worn face, carrying years of pain he never expressed. And just when the silence became unbearable, the maid stepped closer and said quietly, "Because, sir, this is the place you chose to forget, but it never forgot you." His knees felt weak as her words sank deep, and suddenly this broken house didn't feel unfamiliar anymore. It felt like a place he had once escaped and erased from memory. A sharp flash of the past hit him, the same dry land, the same cracked walls, and a promise he made to return. A promise he never kept after chasing wealth. He looked around carefully now, noticing details he ignored before, and each corner whispered a memory he had buried, turning his confidence into silent regret. The old man slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn object, holding it with shaking hands like it carried a story too heavy to speak. When the maid took it and showed him, his heart stopped. It was an old, faded photograph, and in it stood a younger version of himself beside this very man. His breath broke instantly, and he stumbled back, realizing this wasn't coincidence. This was truth, standing in front of him after years of running away from it. The maid's voice came again, calm but piercing. "You promised you would come back, but instead you built a life where remembering us was no longer convenient." The old woman turned her face away, quietly wiping her tears, not wanting to beg or accuse, just accepting the pain life had forced her to carry. He felt something collapse inside him, because the success he was proud of suddenly looked empty, built on a foundation of broken trust and forgotten people. And in that crushing silence, he realized the biggest truth. The people he once called family had been surviving all these years, without him, without help, without hope. His hands started shaking as he stared at the photograph, his past no longer a memory, but a living truth standing right in front of him, demanding answers he never prepared. He whispered, "I thought you were gone." But even he knew how weak that sounded, like a man trying to hide from a truth that had already found him. The old man finally spoke, his voice broken and slow. "We were never gone. You just stopped looking back." And those words crushed whatever pride he still held. A heavy silence filled the small yard, and even the wind seemed to pause, as if the world itself was waiting for him to face what he had done years ago. The maid stepped slightly aside, letting the moment unfold. Her eyes filled with both pain and strength, like someone who had carried this truth for far too long. He tried to step closer, but his feet felt heavy, as if every step toward them meant accepting a guilt he had spent years avoiding with money and power. His mind raced back to the city, his luxurious office, the applause, the deals, and suddenly, all of it felt meaningless compared to this quiet, painful reality.
Quietly.
The old woman finally spoke softly. "We
Like a stranger.
waited, not for your money, just for
Outside
you
your
to
love.
remember." And her voice held no anger, only a deep,
I still
tired
see
sadness.
you in the
That hurt him more than any accusation ever could, because forgiveness wasn't being demanded. It was something he had already lost without even realizing. And as he stood there, broken between who he became and who he abandoned, he understood. Some losses don't happen in a moment. They happen slowly, over years of silence. His vision blurred as tears finally broke through. Something he hadn't allowed in years, because this wasn't just guilt. It was the weight of a life built on neglect. He dropped to his knees on the dusty ground, while my own heart asked me why. Because in this moment, he wasn't in the background, just someone who had failed his own people. The maid watched, loving you without belonging, steady, as if she had waited for this exact moment. Not for revenge, but for him to finally see the truth clearly. A distant sound of traffic echoed from the road, reminding him how close his heartache and love you from far away. He looked at the old man again. I quietly keep watching you like a stranger passing by, standing outside your love story, filled with pain, while my own heart. Because respect cannot beg, and love cannot force its way into a heart that chose to leave. Those words cut deeper than anything before, leaving him completely exposed, with no excuse left to hide behind, no reason strong enough to defend his past. The old woman slowly stood up, her weak steps steady with quiet strength, and placed her fragile hand on his head, not to blame him, but to release him. Maybe someday I'll stop hoping. That gentle touch shattered him completely, because it carried forgiveness he didn't deserve, and love that never disappeared, even when he had walked away. And in that overwhelming moment, he realized the cruelest truth. They had suffered without him, yet still kept a place in their hearts. Standing outside the silence grew heavier as he held their hands, feeling warmth he had lost long ago. And for the first time, his success felt smaller than this fragile moment of truth. A distant ambulance siren suddenly pierced the air, and the maid quickly turned her head, her expression changing as she noticed the old man struggling to breathe. Panic spread instantly as the old man collapsed slightly, his weak body unable to hold on, and the peaceful moment turned into a desperate fight against time. Without thinking, he rushed forward, lifting him carefully, his expensive suit now covered in dust. But none of that mattered as fear replaced every other emotion. "Car! Now!" he shouted, his voice filled with urgency as they moved toward the road, leaving the broken house behind for the first time together. Inside the car, the old woman held his hand tightly, her silent prayers trembling through her fingers, while the maid sat beside him, trying to keep him conscious. The road felt endless as the city lights grew closer, and each second weighed heavily, like a test he could not afford to fail again after already losing so much. They reached the hospital, and the doors burst open as doctors rushed in, taking the old man away, leaving him standing there, helpless and shaken. He looked through the glass as machines surrounded him, the same way he had seen in business emergencies. But this time, it wasn't profit or loss. But my heart still leaves the door open for a dream. As the red emergency light flickered above the door, he realized I'm still waiting for your footsteps, though I know they'll never come. Holding on to broken echoes of a love already gone. I'm still waiting for your return, though the stars say it's untrue. Somewhere deep inside this broken heart, I still belong. And for the first time in his life, he had no control. People tell me keep on moving,
that
just
some
fear
endings
and
must
regret
remain.
sitting heavy in his
But how do I stop
The maid
believing
stood quietly
when your
beside
name
him,
still
her
calls
presence
my
calm
pain?
yet distant, as if she had
I'm still
already
waiting
accepted
for
outcomes
your
he was still
footsteps,
too
though
afraid
I
to
know
even
they'll
imagine.
never come.
After what felt like
Holding
forever,
on to
the doctor
broken
finally stepped out,
echoes
his
of a
serious
love
face
already
revealing more
gone.
than words. And in
I'm
that
still
instant,
waiting
the
for
world
your
around him
return,
went silent.
though the stars say it's
Condition
untrue.
is critical.
Somewhere
The
deep
doctor said
inside this
He has
broken
been weak
heart,
for
I
a
still
long time. Survival
belong
now
to
depends on
you.
strength, not treatment alone. Those words hit him harder than anything before, because he understood clearly this wasn't just about illness. It was about years of struggle without support.
Maybe
He slowly
hope
turned toward
is
the
just
maid,
a prison.
his voice trembling.
Maybe love
Tell me,
can blind the
why
soul.
did you stay with
But
him
even knowing
after
you won't
everything?
find me,
His
I
question
still
filled with
wait
confusion
here
and pain.
all
She looked at him, her eyes steady, and
alone.
replied
I'm
softly,
still waiting
"Because
for your
someone
footsteps, though I
And the
know
one who
they'll
once
never
there
come.
chose to leave."
Holding on to
That
broken
answer broke him
echoes
again,
of
but
a
before he
love
could speak,
already
he had
gone.
gone.
I'm still waiting for your
They never
return,
stopped believing
though the stars
you would
say
come
it's
back.
untrue. Somewhere
his
deep
head,
inside
tears
this
falling
broken
without
heart,
whispered
I
to himself,
still
"If I get one more chance,
belong.
I won't walk away again, no matter what it takes." The story ends here, but the mystery lives on. Like, subscribe, and return for the next unforgettable journey.